why it's difficult that I should mention this, that our whole education system, the teaching, whether it's mother tongue or other tongue or maths or science, is based on textbook, written material. Whereas our brain is primarily trained and made, biologically, naturally for doing things with spoken language. And we ignore spoken language completely and do everything through the written language, which is not there at all in our brain. That is a different skill, like making a chair, or printing a book or driving a car. It's altogether different skill. It's not there in our brain. So that's why many things are missing in our education, especially in language education. So that is very important. And before I go to the slides, and one thing that we have been missing is, see, NCF 2005 came in 2005, 15 years gone. And many things were told there, but we have not been able to implement all those things, bring all those things into practice, except for some states. And of course, Kerala is at the top. And I know Navodaya Vidyalaya Sangathan and even Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangathan, and even the schools, the government schools in Kerala, they are far ahead of other states. So I don't have to tell them. But this is one thing, that wherever we are lacking, what was proposed in the earlier education policy, actually new education policy, you will see in my slides that I have also said that there are many good things that were there in NCF 2005. And see, these policies or the theories, applications, approaches don't change so frequently. Whether it's language education or science or maths education, things don't change because children remain same, our brains are same. And except for some cultural things or new terms might come there, but otherwise the things remain the same. So they have also emphasized that we have to base on NCF, which will be revised, of course, this year. They are in the process. So let's go to, then, so that you have to see something. Okay. Now, a window. And is it coming, Pankaj?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It's coming.
Okay. All right. Then we go to. So actually, as I already mentioned, that NEP has talked about language. They have given a policy that what will be the place of what language. They have talked about both mother tongue and the other tongue. Mother tongue, as we know that we learn. Actually, we do not learn mother tongue, we acquire. And we acquire mother tongue because the nature or God has given us the capacity in our brain that we acquire a language. It's not to be taught. We hear our parents and caregivers, and then we also acquire, because there is a machine. Technically, it is called a language acquisition device, LAD, language acquisition device. That is something like blueprint of grammar, and grammar of not a particular language, but grammar of universal grammar. So universally, you know that whether it's Tamil or Malayalam or Hindi or English, they all work on the same principles, that all languages will have subject, object, verb. All languages will have noun, transitive verb, intransitive verb. All languages will have preposition or postposition. They will all have adjective, adverbs, consonants, vowels. So that is universal grammar. The principle in all the languages are same. Only the parameters, what will go in that particular principle, that differs. So for example, English will have only say I and and we will not have two parts like Tamil or Malayalam, inclusive, including the hearer and excluding the hearer. So that we will not have. Otherwise, English also has pronoun. So the items will differ, few items, but the principle that a language will have pronoun, that will function as subject. English also has verb, Malayalam also has verb. Only what verbs, the pronunciation of verbs will be different. The transitive verbs will be different. Intransitive verbs will be different. But both the languages have verbs, adjective, negative. So negative in Malayalam, it will come after the verb. Illa will come or in Tamil, and Hindi, English, etc., it will come before not go, and not come in English or Hindi, nahi jana, nahi ana. But Malayalam or Tamil, etc., will have illa coming after the verb. But the principle is same, that negation can be there in a sentence, and it has to be expressed by using some word or part of a word. So principle is same, parameters differ. So mother tongue, what happens? The grammar, universal grammar, the blueprint of that is there in every child's brain. And when the child, say after 6 months, 8 months, 1 year, she keeps receiving the input from her parents, and then the brain, this grammar, the blueprint, LAD is there, and it constructs generalizations and making rules itself. And by the time the child is 3 year or 5 year old, she masters the language. This is called acquisition in mother tongue. And in second language or other language, what happens? The spoken language is not there. The child has to take everything from print, or most of the things from print, and very little of spoken language. That's why it takes more time. So NEP, like earlier education policy, and also emphasized in NCF 2005, it emphasizes that our cognition, our perception, concept formation, everything is done through the mother tongue. By the time child is 5 or 6 year old and she comes to school, by that time the concepts have already been formed. Which words relate to what concept, etc. They are already there. So you don't. That's why mother tongue is very important, because you cannot learn something where concept is different and the medium is different. The language is different. You don't understand if I speak some words from my mother tongue, or say from Arabic, or from Persian or from Russian. Everyone will not understand, because not the concept is there. Water is there in your mind. Dog is there in your mind. The concept of dog. Angle is there. Wall is there. House is there. But the items will differ in different languages. So by the age of 5 or 6, the concepts have already been formed, and that is through a particular language, which is mother language, mother tongue. That's why we emphasize, including in NEP 2020, that since concepts are already there through one particular language, so let that language be continued in education also. When child is learning more sophisticated things in maths or science, or say environmental science or sociology or history, so let that happen through mother tongue. And they have also said that if it's not possible to have mother tongue up to, say, graduation or post-graduation or PhD, at least you have it up to 8. Because up to 8 plus, what happens? The child is around 13, 14 years of age. And this the education is know that in our brains, there are about 100 billion neurons, and the concepts are located. Words, grammar, everything is located in those neurons. We hear it, they are converted into electromagnetic signals, and they are imprinted on the neuron. So by the age of 13 or 14, the density of neuron is more. And how neurons talk? They talk through synapses. All the neurons get information, data, electromagnetic waves, electrochemical waves, and then that is stored in synapses. And from synapses, the information goes to different neurons, other neurons. This is how the brain functions. So by the time of 13 or 14 years of age, the density of neurons and synapses is much more. And what happens? Synapses and neurons also get destroyed. They also get built. New neurons are formed all the time, and new synapses are also formed, and they get destroyed also. Neurons and which synapses get destroyed, deleted, if they are not useful, if they are not taking part in anything, then they get destroyed or deleted. And new neurons are formed with experience, with new information, with new data, with new connections. So that's the reason why most of the education, including language education, the best age is up to 13 or 14. After that, the neurons are not so capable. The brain is not so capable. Although it is capable all the time, but it's not so generative. It cannot, generate new neurons, make new connections, lose the useless neurons and build new neurons which are useful. These things don't happen so fast and so vividly and broadly after the age of 13 or 14. That's why it is said that education, including mother tongue education and subject teaching through mother tongue, should happen up to the age of 13 or 14. That is up to class 8 or so. So this is one thing that they have said. And then they have also talked about multilingualism. That means because the brain is so powerful up to the age of 13 or 14, that children can learn 2, 3, 4, 5 languages easily if the conditions are present. And when I say the conditions, that means, see, in mother tongue, what happens? The mother doesn't teach a child that beta, avan is singular and avar is a plural, or ku is for dative subject. No, like achanu, so to the father, or ku to the child, kutyaku. So mother doesn't teach a child her mother tongue like this. The child forms her grammar herself by listening to the input, receiving the input. So by the time a child is 13 or 14 years of age, you keep them giving inputs in 2 languages, 3 languages. The brain are so capable that they can pick up 2 or 3 or 4 languages very easily. Of course, they'll do more of the things in mother tongue, but they can easily learn 2, 3 languages. And what happens? India, the condition is such that there's no place where you'll find that people speak only one language, or you cannot do everything using only one language. Even in Kerala, you have to use in some places Malayalam, and in some other places, the same Malayalam speaker may have to use English. Or if the Malayalam speaking person moves to Delhi, then she might need some Hindi also. So our society is such that we need more than one language. Just one language in the present world cannot do. So that's why it's necessary. And also 2 or 3 languages makes your brain very active, because brain likes stories, it likes more connections, more informations. That's why what happens, if you learn more languages, if the child learns more languages, then she becomes smarter, she becomes more smart. Her brain becomes more powerful, more generative, no, more creative. That's why more languages are required. And when the child grows and she has to take part in society, take a job, become a teacher, get transferred or travel, that time also languages are needed. That's why there's so much emphasis on mother tongue in NEP 2020 as well. Then they have also said that languages should be taught in enjoyable and interactive style. As I already mentioned, that language is primarily spoken. The brain is ready for only spoken language. Written language comes secondarily. And actually, writing is dependent on the spoken language. So that's why it should be interactive. One person, if a child remains alone all the time, doesn't talk to anyone, no one talks to her, then the child will not learn a language. This we know, all of us know. I'm okay. I'm audible, Akaji, because I can see only my screen.
Yes, sir. You are very much audible, sir. Please continue.
Okay. Okay. Just a minute. That's the problem. You do not see yourself, only the slide. Okay. So that's why interaction is necessary. And second thing is, whatever you do in language classroom should be enjoyable, because brain likes things which are happy, enjoyable. It doesn't like boring thing. It doesn't like sadness. That's why so many hormones are there to take care of the sadness, the pain, no suffering. So much chemicals, so many chemicals are there in brain to take care of that. So if learning is not enjoyable and if it's not interactive, then children will not learn language and they will not also learn maths and science as well. So that's why. And also they have said that language learning will be experiential. That means experience, because see, in no language, one word will mean only one thing. It depends on context. The same sentence, the same word in different contexts can mean something else. And one word, when it comes with some other word, then it will mean something else. So it should be experiential. And then also no textbook, no one say video or one teacher is a repository of all the information, all the knowledge. So that's why experiential means that it should be based on the experience, what is happening around the children, because brain likes connections. So make more and more connections, then only learning becomes enjoyable and learning is also enhanced. Cognition is also enhanced. The next thing they have said, the three-language formula will continue. And many people miss one thing, especially state like Tamil Nadu and Tripura, they used to fight that why three language, because Hindi will come. See, so this time they have been careful and they have said that no language will be imposed. So it's not necessary that you take Hindi. Three language is the minimum. See, there's no limit. Children can learn 4 languages or 5 languages, and which language to choose is also left to the states. So it's not that you include 3 languages only, Hindi, English and Malayalam. It can be Hindi, Tamil or English, or it can be Malayalam, Tamil and English. So there is no limit on that, and depending on the policy of the state, the social conditions of the state, you can have different languages there. And so this is connected to multilingualism. That means our society is multilingual, the child is multilingual. So that's why 3 languages. And this is also there that you have to teach languages in such a way that there is a transition. So mother tongue, all subjects in mother tongue up to class 8 or so. And in the meantime, from class 2 or class 3 or class 4, they also start learning other 2 languages simultaneously, from spoken second language, say English, and spoken, let's say Telugu, from class 3 or class 2, and then move to written English, written Telugu in class 4, 5, 6, and then when the child is in class 9, she has mastered 2 more languages, because Malayalam or Tamil or many other languages, they are not going to be there in all the colleges and all the post-graduation universities as a medium. So it's possible that the child joins the college where the medium is English or some other language. Or if someone's, say, father is transferred to Delhi, a Malayalam speaking, say, army personnel or an officer, central government officer is transferred to Delhi, and from Delhi to, say, UP to Bihar, then what happens? There, it's not necessary that she will get seat in English medium college or English medium university. So that time, if the child is fluent in, say, Hindi also and English also, then she can easily get education. So that is the purpose. The spirit is that child is ready to do things using various languages wherever those languages are offered or those languages are present. She should not become a handicap, because if someone knows only Malayalam and no other language, then what will happen? If Malayalam speaking child joins a college, medical college, where education is not possible or many subjects are not possible to be taught through Malayalam, then the child will not get a chance to join those colleges. So that's why she should be proficient in English. So that is the spirit, 3 language formula, that you continue concept formation, learning concepts of various subjects through your mother tongue up to some classes, and then in the meantime you also master 1 more or 2 more languages, so that when the transition takes place of medium from mother tongue to other tongue in various places, then child will not suffer. That is the spirit. It's not that this language or that language. So that the parents have to decide, the school has to decide, the state has to decide. So that is there. So yeah, I have already said that. Then they also said that teaching of all languages will be enhanced through innovative and experiential methods. Innovative, that means, see, our teaching in schools, whether it's NVS or CBSE, mostly in most, except Kerala and Mysore, there are some states which are doing well. Even Bihar is not lagging behind. That is also on 4th position in India. So, but in most of the schools and most of the states, what happens? That Learning is through textbook and a lot of grammar only. So it's not innovative. And grammar is taught like as if you're teaching a linguist. That is not grammar teaching. You're not going to make them linguists or grammarians. So that's why, and experiential, because knowledge forms through experience. Because I'm not mentioned in the slides, but let me tell you, all the teachers, that knowledge depends on whether it's language or anything, that there are two important things. One is that neurons interact among each other in the brain, inside the brain. So what happens inside the brain, among the neurons, and how the brain, that is the system of neurons, interacts with the world outside the brain through eyes, through ear, through skin, no, so various sense organs. So both, when both are well advanced and both are interacting well, both are developed, and only learning takes place. So one is called knowledge of the language system, KOLS, knowledge of the language system, that is inside the brain, and knowledge of the world, KOW, knowledge of the world. So one is the linguistic information, linguistic knowledge, language knowledge, and the second one is the encyclopedic knowledge, encyclopedia. See, you must have seen that in dictionary you have words. That means all the information about word in the grammar itself. Good. So what is good and what does it mean? But encyclopedia doesn't refer to languages. It refers to other things beyond language, outside language. For example, if there is a word in dictionary bridge, then bridge is a noun, singular noun, and what it means, that is dictionary knowledge, knowledge of the language system. And when you talk about what types of bridges are there in the world, what constituents are there in the bridge, it's made of bamboo or wood or iron, when the first bridge was built, etc., and which are the famous bridges in the world, that is encyclopedic knowledge outside of the language. So when these two things come together, then only we say a person has knowledge. Otherwise, the information remains information. It doesn't become part of the knowledge system. That's why. So real life experience. So it's not enough to know the word bridge as a noun, but the child also has to know that what are the associated things with the word bridge, like bridge the gap between home and school language. So there the bridge is not the bridge on which we cross the river. See, the meaning is different. So that is encyclopedic knowledge, outside language. So all these things will come from experience, and there will be no book, no teacher, which will be complete in all the information. That's why more experiences, real life experiences, because the child has to use the language outside her house also, isn't it? It's not that she's going to remain all the time in the house, in the present world, and do not interact with anyone outside her house. So real life experiences are required because languages function in real life. Language is not only communication. Language. Why? Because see, in second language especially what happens, all the language structure that are required in real life experience, when you communicate, those things may not be present in a particular story or poem, what is contained in the textbook. That's why films or videos are very much necessary. Because, and also, if you teach grammar, like first person pronoun or second person pronoun or present tense, past tense, it doesn't make any sense if there is no visual. So only in context, these grammatical points or certain words also become meaningful. That's why films are important. So films need not be a 2-hour film or 1-hour film. It can be only 3 to 5 minutes of clips. Cartoons can be there, or children can enact themselves, you know, through theater mode, etc. And music also is a good source of second language, because in music what happens, like songs or rhymes, there the same thing will be repeated in every stanza, isn't it? So that's why, so they'll get the information of the spoken language through music. So that also is important. Then they have also talked about at present language teachers focus on canonical literature of language. That means only say stories, some poems, some drama. So no, they always say that you have to go beyond that, that you bring different materials from different sources. So it can be cartoons, written, or even cartoon videos, or films can also be brought, newspaper items can be there, newspaper articles can be there, magazine articles can be there, if it is written, or videos are the best source for learning second languages, because in video the context will be there, whether it's a movie or cartoon or some drama clip, there will be always a context there, and also spoken language. So if children, as I already mentioned, that second language is learned better if there is more input of second language, like mother tongue. You don't teach grammar in mother tongue. Similarly, in second language, instead of teaching grammar or words, if you give input through the context where the natural conversation is taking place, natural language is taking place, then it's the capacity of the children's brain that if they hear the same structures every day for 7 days, 8 days, 10 days, then it will certainly go in their brain and become part of the information of knowledge of their brain. So that is important. Then they also said that e-content will continue. So e-content, that means video viewing, and they have suggested that I have not mentioned it here, that NCERT, then NIOS, even CIIL, SCRTs, they will cooperate together and then make video which will be uploaded. Teachers can also make it uploaded on the website. This is what they mean by e-content, that in regional languages also the videos should be there, and teachers should also be provided with video equipments, because schools don't have it. It's possible that NVS will have it because they have a different system, but normally schools don't have that. So video must be included in teaching learning classes, and for second language that is a must. If you do only say 5 to 7 minutes of different types of videos, cartoons, songs, music, drama, even film clippings, you don't have to use a textbook. I guarantee this to you. You don't need any textbook. If teacher is there and some video lessons are there, video, normal, authentic video texts are there, that is enough for learning Malayalam by any mother tongue speaker. That is guaranteed. This is what we do. In America, see, Telugu, Bangla, Malayalam, Tamil, Sanskrit, Hindi, Urdu, they are taught in many universities. And there we do not use any syllabus. There's no syllabus, no textbook. And the American students, within 2 semesters, within 1 year, they become much better. Their Hindi, their Tamil, their Urdu becomes much better than second language learners of India, where these languages are present in their vicinity. Everywhere it's visible, everywhere it's possible. So the difference is because we depend too much on the textbook, written material, whereas in second language, written material is secondary. After 2 years, 3 years, and slowly, partly it will be given, reading, writing also, but you don't need it so much because language is spoken. So video must form the part of your second language curriculum. Okay. Then lastly, they have said that NCF has outlined many excellent strategies that are still relevant. So I'll be talking about that now. So before that, I've already actually told you mother tongue and other tongue. So mother tongue means the language that is learned first, and second language or other tongue, because it also includes foreign language. So second language is the language learned after the first language, and it can be number 2 language, number 3 language. So third language, fourth language, fifth language, all are second languages. Or the series doesn't matter, the serial number, whether which one is learned first, English or Hindi or Telugu or Bangla or Marathi or Hindi. For Malayalam speaker, it doesn't matter. They're all second languages. English is a second language and Hindi is a second language. And foreign language, because foreign language materials, foreign language speakers are not present in our country, that's why they're foreign language. So English is present everywhere, although foreign language, but it has become something like a second language because it's possible to hear, see things in English language in India. And Japanese is not, German is not a second language. It's a foreign because we don't see people speaking in Japanese or German in India. We don't see films in German or Japanese. That's why they remain foreign language. Otherwise, technically, Japanese, German, Russian, French are also second languages. And foreign, because they are in foreign countries, not located in our country. But for Hindi speaker, Malayalam is a second language because Malayalam is located here. Children can see people talking in Malayalam. They can hear, they can read something in Malayalam, and it is used in one state as official language. So it's present mostly in our country. That's why it's a second language, not a foreign language. Malayalam for Hindi-speaking children. Then in NCF there are so many things, and number one is that they have talked about emphasis on meaning, then grammar. See, grammar actually is not important. One thing that all teachers should know, and many trainers also do not know this, that grammar is not something different from language. Language itself is grammar, and grammar itself is language. They cannot be separated. You cannot have a grammar, a language where you don't have a noun, or you don't have a pronoun, a verb. So see, those things are there. The moment you speak, the moment you read, the moment you write, all these things are there. So you cannot read, write, hear, no, speak without grammar. So grammar itself is language. It cannot be separated. And the reason behind separating grammar for the teachers is that, see, all subjects have something, some content matter. Maths has something. You have triangle, angle, no, square, rectangle, and those things. So something is there, visible, outside language. You're teaching mathematics through Malayalam. So Malayalam is language, and then you have a content. All these things, rectangle, square, square root, these are content in that. In science, you'll have content. You'll have osmosis, reflection, mirror, lens, concave lens, convex lens, reflection, refraction. All these things will be there. In biology, you'll have photosynthesis. So you'll have, you can see glucose, you can see protein, you can see carbohydrate. So many contents are there in all these subjects. In history, you'll have something, some content. In sociology, you'll have content. But when it comes to language, teachers and even learners, they think, where is the content? Because, see, I am speaking, so that the content of my speaking is the language itself. You cannot see it, the content. You don't see noun coming out of from my mouth. You don't see verb coming. You don't see article coming. You don't see, auxiliary verb coming. You don't see adverb coming, isn't it? So where is the content? When we speak, there's no content. Spoken language doesn't have content. So that's why teachers and educators, many of them, they think that English language teaching or second language teaching should also have some content, which is visible. And what is visible? A grammar book and a dictionary. So, but grammar and dictionary are not the language. No, matlab separately visible in the printed form. No, it is not true. Language, grammar, and words, they go together and they are part of the brain. The dictionary and a grammar book is representation of the grammar and word and dictionary, which is there inside the brain. That is not the content. So that's why it's wrong to emphasize on grammar, or rather it should be meaning. What we do with the knowledge that we get through even printed grammar book and printed dictionaries, the meaning is important. Grammar is a medium of conveying meaning. And you know why grammar is most favorite part of teachers in teachers' life is that anybody can teach grammar, because grammar is talking about the language, not the language, but about the language. So it's you can read a grammar book, like I can read Malayalam grammar, or say thesis of our own NTM staff from CIIL, and I can teach you Malayalam grammar, that how plural is formed, how present tense is formed, how past tense is formed. I can give you a lecture 3-4 hours on Malayalam grammar, but on my own, I cannot produce sentences in Malayalam. So what is the use? Because so grammar is very easy to talk about and also to teach. So that's why grammar should not be the focus. Grammar is language that is located in the brain. So you don't have to provide the children with separate grammar rules, because language itself is happening through the grammar rules. Words contain the grammatical information. When you say sentence, what does sentence contain? Sentence contains grammar, nouns, verbs, pronouns, articles, adverbs, adjectives. So you don't have to teach it separately. Okay, so that is important. The second thing they have said, develop integrated skill. So see, language doesn't happen that one time only listening, other time only speaking, one time reading, another time writing. No, all these things are related because language is present in all these four aspects. So reading always happens with writing, knowledge of writing. Writing happens with knowledge of reading. You yourself read. When you write something, you're actually reading and showing that what does it mean, etc. So develop integrated skill. Although sometimes it is good that you teach listening separately, speaking separately, but it's better that all the time, all the four skills, including dictionary, reference skill, is also taken care of all the time in all the classes. So this is what NCF 2005 says. Then they have talked about some pedagogical proposals. So they say that put the learner at the center of language learning. See, language as like we learn mother tongue, mother is not teaching us grammar or she is not showing us dictionaries. We construct our own meaning. We construct our own grammar when we are a child, 2-year-old, 3-year-old child. The child constructs the grammar. Language learning should also be focused on the learner. It's the learner's brain that constructs meaning, that constructs, generalizes grammar rules, and makes a conclusion. And then when input is there, the brain has analyzed that, made generalization, then she produces some language. She comes up with the output. That's why it should be emphasized that learner is at the center. Then mother tongue should be medium, etc. That we have already talked about. Then assessment is another thing that is important. They also talk about, see what happens actually, our assessment is also important. One thing that is lacking with its NVS or CBSE or government schools is that teachers do not know that what a child is doing, how she is progressing, what she has learned, what she has not learned, etc. So that's why assessment is very important. And see, we talk about in B.Ed classes that summative assessment, formative assessment, but in schools we don't give it importance. There's no place for formative assessment. And even if there is some formative assessment, that is based on the textbook. And the moment you connect the assessment and evaluation to a textbook, that is achievement oriented. That's what children were expected to learn from the textbook, whether they have learned it or not. That is achievement. But see, NEP 2020 or NCF 2005, they all emphasize on proficiency. Proficiency means autonomy. That child learns a language in such a way that she becomes proficient and autonomous so that she can do everything using the language that she had learned on her own. Then that actually I have not mentioned it here, but that is in education it is called, see, converting declarative knowledge into procedural knowledge. See, it's not enough that you hear from someone that how to drive a car. This is steering wheel, this is brake. So by learning how to drive a car from a book, you cannot drive a car. By learning, someone gives you a lecture on how to make roti, chapati or puri or some non-veg dish, you cannot make it. You have to do it. So, and how do you know if someone has learned making roti, puri or not, or someone has learned driving a car or not? That is by seeing the person do it. That is formative assessment. That is converting the declarative knowledge, that is knowledge of the facts, that this is noun, this is singular, this is plural, this is a concrete noun, this is abstract noun, this is collective noun, etc. This is transitive verb, intransitive verb. How do you assess that? When the child uses it. And the proficiency means that whatever the child was supposed to learn today, she has learned it today. If whatever the child has to learn in this week, she has learned it this week. Then you go on to the next lesson. Then you go to the next topic. That is proficiency oriented teaching and also assessment. So if you wait for assessment to happen after 6 months or after 1 year, then what has happened? You have missed the chance to understand whether child has learned or not, whether child has become proficient or not in what the teacher was supposed to make her proficient in. So whether she has mastered some aspect of language or not, you have to do it on daily basis, mentally, and also weekly basis through some quizzes, something, some activity. So assessment is an important part, and evaluation. Lastly, it says evaluation should not be tied to achievement. That means it should not be related to the textbook. Actually, it should be based on the proficiency. Whatever the child has learned, what she can do and what she cannot do with the knowledge in second language that she has gained. That is proficiency. That is assessment of proficiency. That what she can do and what she cannot do. Because our ultimate goal of second language teaching is to make child proficient in such a way that she can do listening, speaking, reading, writing, grammar, everything on her own. And she doesn't have to recall what she has learned in the first class or second class or last year or last semester, etc. Her brain is ready. That means the knowledge, the facts that she got, declarative knowledge, facts of language, has become procedural habit in her brain, so that she doesn't need to recall everything, all the processes that has been going on. It becomes so automatic. That's why she becomes autonomous. This is your teaching and also assessment. They go hand in hand together. Then textbook and materials that we can skip because the teachers can't do anything with the textbook, but materials are important. That teachers can bring the materials on their own. See, in 1 year you have to teach one textbook, and it contains at the most 22 lessons. So one lesson gets so many weeks, isn't it? Or so many hours, more than 10, 12 hours on one lesson. So what do you do with one lesson? And that story about something like water, how water is harvested, etc., or when Mahatma Gandhi was born and what he did, etc., it doesn't help in language learning. That is knowing something from the world through language, knowing a lesson on Mahatma Gandhi, or lesson on Ambedkar, or lesson on how Kalpana Chawla went to space, etc. That has nothing to do with language. So you bring something where language is there. So like CDs can be there, films can be there, videos can be there. Even talking about Kalpana Chawla, reading a 3-page story on Kalpana Chawla, it's better to have only 3-minute story on video, because people will be speaking authentic language and there will be context visually, so then learning will happen faster. Second language I'm talking. For mother tongue, it's okay to have more poems and more stories because children is already proficient in vocabulary, in listening, speaking. So you have to make her acquainted with more grammar, more finer aspects of language like alankar, chanda, meter, verse, different types of stories, paragraph, etc. But for the learners of second language, first you need to make her habituated to the use of grammar points that she is supposed to learn. Like in Malayalam learning, it's not necessary for a Hindi child to talk about case, because Malayalam has so many cases. Nominative, accusative, dative markers are different. But in Hindi, cases are not there. We have only 2 cases. One case with the postposition and one case without the postposition. So, मैं versus मुझको, मैंने. That's all. Otherwise, the words do not change shape. But in Malayalam, it's possible that when you add mu or ku, then many changes will happen in the noun. So that's why case is important. In Hindi, gender is important. Masculine, feminine. Everything has to be masculine or feminine. But in Malayalam, there is no gender in abstract nouns, only for human beings and animals. Mother, father, poet, poetess, with say, you can say Bhagavan, Bhagavati, etc. Cow and ox, there only. Otherwise, there is no gender. So why waste time on teaching gender one day? Because Malayalam doesn't have gender. In verb, in Hindi, you'll have खाएगा, वो खाएगा, लड़की खाएगी. Malayalam, it doesn't matter whether it's he or she or I or we, the verb remains same. So why waste time on teaching these things? So that's the materials also need to be changed. And in school, this was what was given in NCF 2005, that teachers bring their own materials. They create their own materials. Do not depend so much on textbook all the time. Then you cannot teach second language. Now I have talked about language acquisition and learning. Acquisition is reserved for mother tongue. Mother tongue is acquired because universal grammar, the blueprint of language, is there in the brain and it is acquired, which was outside. The child's mother, father, and others had that language. Now she has acquired that because she has the power in her brain through language acquisition device. A blueprint of grammar is there, so she acquires it. But in second language, what happens? The language is not there. She never hears English. A Hindi speaker never hears Malayalam, never hears, no, as a child, 5-6-year-old child, doesn't hear any English, no Tamil, no Bangla, nothing, no other language. So it's not there. No one is giving her input in these languages. So that's why she has to learn it. She has to go to school or go to a teacher, get lessons. So consciously, she has to make an effort. But in mother tongue, no effort is there. It happens automatically, subconsciously, no, without being taught or without going to school. Language is acquired in mother tongue, but in second language, it's learned because it happens in a formal situation through a teacher, through a school, through a textbook, etc. So that's a conscious effort, conscious process of acquiring language. But second language can also be acquired if the conditions are similar to that of mother tongue. And what is that? In mother tongue, you don't give child a dictionary, you don't give child a list of words, you don't give child grammar, you don't explain the children, your own child, the rules of grammar. No. So that is natural setting of acquiring language. So if similar situations, similar conditions are present for the second language learners, then they can acquire it as they acquired mother tongue. So if you teach only rule, they become grammarian, they become linguists. If you read, give them only list of words, but if they do not use it in real life, if they do not know how to use it in what situation, then they become grammarian and a linguist, but not the actual user of that language. So create a situation in second language as it was present when they were acquiring a mother tongue. No emphasis on rule, no emphasis on grammar, very little emphasis on learning words. They used to construct their grammar. They used to generalize, hear more language, brain interacts with that and acquire the rules of language, acquire the new words with new meanings in mother tongue. A similar situation has to be created in your second language, Malayalam classroom. Sorry. Then I have talked about communicative competence. This you can read because you wasted some time. That is, see, linguistic competence is not enough because language doesn't work without society. So, whom to talk? Social linguistic competence. That in Hindi you have to use aap all the time to elders, someone respectful. But in Malayalam, it's see, you have the word angal, but you don't use it often, isn't it? So, but in Hindi, you cannot address a teacher with tum. You have to use aap. So that is social linguistic competence. You cannot have say singular aap and then singular verb in Hindi. Aap kaun hai? No, aap kaun hai. So that is also in Malayalam that you have pronoun is singular. I'm sorry, you can use plural pronoun to give respect to your teacher. That is possible. So these comes from society, how the language interacts when you are working in society. So that also is part of language learning. Then you have strategic competence, that if you started your sentence wrongly or you made some mistake, then how to correct it or how to think. Someone said something, you expected one thing, but the hearer said something else. So how to change your sentence, those are strategies. Then discourse competence, that how sentences are connected to make paragraphs, how paragraphs are connected to make bigger text like essays, etc. So that also has to be taught and learned. So that is part of our competence. But in our schools, we focus only on linguistic competence, grammar, which is completely useless. And then there are 2-3 things that are mentioned in NCF 2005. Critical period, I have already talked about it, that children acquire mother tongue or a second language best up to the age of 13 or 14, because the brain is capable, brain is plastic, neuroplasticity, neurons are plastic, they have not become hardened. So more information can go there, more changes in neurons can be made by learning and by experience. That's why that is the best age. And in second language also, people say there are sensitive periods. That means certain things are learned at certain age better, like sounds. So consonants, vowels. See, in Malayalam, when you write, for example, a word like, say, you write kantham. Oh, that is kantham, but you'll pronounce it as kandam, isn't it? You'll say pak, but you'll write pak, but pronounce it as pag, share, bhag. So many such sukham, but you pronounce it as sugam. Ka becomes kha. So you write in one way, you speak different way. So what happens? Sounds are difficult after a certain age. So it is said that learning sounds of second language is best learned when children are young, because brain becomes very hardwired for sounds very early in every language, even in mother tongue. That's why you must hear that a person does MA in English or how to teach English, applied linguistics, but that person who has done MA in English, if he is from Bihar, he can still say, instead of ship, he can say sip, isn't it? We have heard that. Station will be station, school will be school. So because sounds are very difficult to learn after certain age in second language. So more emphasis should be there on mastering the sound system of second language when children are young, before puberty. After that, it's difficult. Other things they can learn anytime. Then we talk about comprehensible input. So anything that we hear through our ears doesn't become part of our memory. It has to be comprehensible. That means, so suppose class 3 child who doesn't know the difference between, say, inclusive pronoun we in Malayalam and exclusive pronoun we. For example, the word will be, so ninnal, use of that, or tangal, or difference between avan and ivan, both mean he. Avan, far, and ivan, close. Adu, that means very far or far, and idu is close by. So if she had not mastered that, and all your sentences include only these pronouns which she had not mastered, or say there are like changes in the words, like ta becomes da between vowels or at the end also. So patam will become padam actually. So go to, right? So ta will be pronounced as da, kodu, koduttu. And you don't say koduttu, you write koduttu, but you pronounce it as koduttu. So what happens? So these things are, so if the level of child where it is, the new information should be little higher than that, not too much high. So if a child is 7-year-old and you start talking to her about what is marriage, what is divorce, what happens if someone's father dies, what is suffering, what is pain, what is caste system, etc., then it will not be comprehensible. You will be talking, it will not be comprehensible. Suppose you are teachers of education, you are teachers of Malayalam, and someone gives you lecture 1 hour on what is bond in chemistry, covalent bond, coordinate bond, electrovalent bond, what is proton, what is neutron, etc., electron, all the time 1 hour, then what will happen? Although you will hear it, but it will not go to your long-term memory in the brain. So that is what is meant by comprehensible input. Input should be, new information should be slightly higher than the current level. It should not also be much below the current level. if I start teaching you what is consonant, what is vowel in Malayalam, no, 1 hour, that ba is by using two lips, ba is also using with two lips, and then there's vibration in the throat. That is ba. If I talk like that for 1 hour, what will happen? Because that is much below your level. You already know that. That's why it will not be comprehensible. It will become boring, uninteresting. So you will not register this information in your brain. You will spend time, but you will not register in your brain. So that is what is meant by comprehensible input. Then affective filter. See, in language, what happens? Language is actually not for learning. We have made it learning or writing, novel writing, but language is primarily for our survival. When the humans came into existence and language came 50 to 70,000 years ago, it was for survival. So language was connected to the emotions as well: fear, anger, no, running away, fighting, jealousy, hatred, love, etc. So these are affections, no, affective items: fear, anxiety, confidence, motivation. These are the affects in mind. So language is connected to that. No language happens without these feelings, without these emotions. You cannot do language like a machine. Computers can do that. Our laptops can type it. But humans cannot do language without emotion. So there are certain emotions, certain affective items which are harmful for language learning. So anxiety, lack of self-confidence, lack of motivation, they are bad. So if there is a filter in the mind, so if the filter is up, then what happens? Anxiety goes to the brain, low motivation goes to the brain, lack of confidence goes to the brain along with language. Then language learning doesn't happen so well. So if the filter is up, but if the affective filter, that means it filters the filter that keeps the low motivation, low confidence, even fear, anxiety out. It doesn't allow these things, these emotions, to go along with language to the brain. That is called filter. So if the filter is down, then these bad things, low self-confidence, low motivation, low self-image, bad self-image, high level of anxiety, these remain out of the filter, and only the good comprehensible input goes inside the brain. So that is also important. Then third thing is monitor hypothesis. That means when we learn second language, then grammar rules, what we learn, etc., also keep monitoring. The child's brain is all the time monitoring. So like, what should I say? Make a plan. Did I say it right or not, etc. So there is a monitor in our brain when we learn second language that keeps editing our language. What we write, what we hear, what we speak, those things are edited based on socio-linguistic competence, discourse. If you're writing a letter, your discourse will be different. If you're writing an essay, your discourse will be different. So brain keeps an eye on editing these items. That is called monitor. So it's not good that a child's brain is all the time monitoring. Those children who use all the time monitor, and they cannot bring output. They cannot produce language because they're all the time thinking, is it right or not? My grammar, how to say present tense, how to say past tense sentence, was it right? Will it be okay or not? All the time monitoring, editing, then she will not produce any language. She cannot do anything. And those who do not use monitor at all, their language will be so inconsistent. No, they will say whatever they want to say without thinking what is right or in the situation, what is right in essay, what is right in letter, what is right in talking to a teacher, what kind of construction, which word to use, etc. They will not monitor at all. So these things also play a role. So those students are good who are optimal users. That means they use it rightly where required. So then only the communication in second language can be perfect. If they use too much of monitor, all the time editing, then, and also if you do not apply editing, then also language will be not sufficient or language will be bad. The output will be bad. Am I okay, Pankaj ji? Pankaj?
Very much, sir. Very much, sir. Very much.
Okay. Just give me 3-4 minutes more. Huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All yours.
Achievement and proficiency. Achievement and proficiency, I've already talked. So see, whatever I have said already, and whatever is there in NCF 2005, that leads us to achievement and proficiency. To do all language teaching learning with an aim of proficiency, not achieving something, not completing a course, not completing a lesson, not memorizing a list of words, not memorizing rules of grammar, but proficiency. Actually, you make use of those knowledge that you gained through textbook, through teacher, through videos in performing some communicative functions in real life. You read some story on your own without putting finger on each and every word, no, fluently. So you do that. You can write a letter on a new topic. You can write a new essay on a new topic. You can talk about something which is new, a new situation. Some you expected something, but something else has come. So that is proficiency. How to make the language that you learned through all these means in real life. That is proficiency. So all these things, that it should be friendly, it should be comprehensible, input should be comprehensible, vocabulary should be learned in such a way that all the time there is recycling more number of times so that the facts become habits. All these lead to proficiency, developing proficiency. That means children become autonomous in such a way that they can use language, second language, Malayalam or any other language on their own in all situations. That is proficiency. Then grammar, I have already talked so much about it, so I'll skip that. I have written this because these things you will not get from teacher educator, from NCRT or SCRT or DIET, etc. So I have combined both my knowledge that I gained through NCRT, working there with educationists, and linguistics. This is not so common that education and linguistics, they don't come together. Linguist is linguist and educationist is educationist. They do not merge or combine these two disciplines together. So I have tried to do that. So you can read that at your leisure. Then vocabulary, see, this is the chart that I have made based on various scholars. This is what we mean by vocabulary. This also is not given to the teachers. So this also you can read. It's fairly easy to read and understand, nothing difficult. Then in vocabulary, another thing is important. See, in mother tongue, what happens? That one word is related to all the concepts with it. Word and concept, they go together. But when you learn second language, you have learned second language, then what, as the young learners, when children are young, what they do, they initially, they first connect the second language word to first language word, and through first language word, they connect it to concept. That means all the time they have to do something in second language, they translate it first in the first language, that is mother tongue. So teachers have to help children get rid of this habit that don't translate in your mind. So concept, and actually I have talked about it a little later, I'll go to that. And then as they mature, what happens? The second language, new words or a new combination of words, that also is first connected to concept. That means new words, new concepts that they have learned in second language Malayalam, that has to become habitual, procedural. They don't have to all the time take help from the mother tongue word. That first you translate a new word in second language into mother tongue, and then because in mother tongue, word and concept combination is always there. So translation. So this is what is emphasized in NEP and NCF 2005 also. Indirectly, they have not given these things there. I have made on the basis of that these charts for you, pictures for you. So that also is very important. What we do in schools is that we give list. We give synonym, antonym. Synonym and antonyms do not work in isolation. They work in context. So teaching synonyms, antonyms also should be based on a paragraph. You give a situation where the synonyms of the same word have come. Say Akash and Asman, if it were Hindi. Oh, like that. or say samarthya, that is Malayalam, and shamata, both mean capacity, isn't it? Sukham and also say anandam or anand. So they are synonymous in most contexts. So give that in paragraph, and then you ask the children that okay, select two words from this paragraph, the meaning of which looks similar. So that is guessing at the concept, connecting ananda with the concept and sukha with the concept without translating. So this is what is meant here. And then as children become more proficient, as they progress in the school education, learning second language, then what this becomes automatic, that where the combination of both is there, mother tongue concept and word, and also second language word and concept. So you read that later on your own. Cognate is very important for your Malayalam teaching or any second language teaching, because see what happens, second language learning is more difficult if the two languages are very dissimilar, like English and Hindi or English and Malayalam are so different. English doesn't have tense, isn't it? It doesn't have tense is expressed through, except past tense. It is always done through some marker which are like will. There is no future tense. So it has only past and present. Whereas Malayalam, Hindi will have all three things: present tense marker, past tense marker, future tense marker. English does not have gender. Hindi has so much of gender. And Malayalam has, say, different types of na. So you can have na, you can have na, you can have a, you can have nya. So all these sounds are there. So different. So those two systems are different. What Hindi and Malayalam, they are cognate. That means many things are shared. We have subject first in Malayalam, in Hindi also. We have object coming next, and then verb. Verb comes in the end. For example, avan maram vetti. Okay, so like he cut the tree. So avan, he, maram, tree, vetti, cut. So what happens? Subject, object, verb. Hindi is similar. Usne पेड़ काटा, subject, object, verb. So most of the things, the principles of the grammar are similar in Malayalam and Hindi, where you are teaching, or Bangla, or Assamese, or Marathi, or Gujarati, or say Tamil. They are all so similar, so it's very easier. And also because we have lived in a condition where, say, Indo-Aryan languages like Sanskrit and Tamil is the oldest, and next is Malayalam. So most of these new Indo-Aryan languages around 10th and 11th century AD, Malayalam also 5th, 6th century AD, Kannada also 5th, 6th century AD, they started becoming new languages, and they become new Indian language around 10th century, 11th century AD. So what happens? We all share certain vocabulary. So they are called cognates. They have come from same source. So like if you are teaching to Hindi, Bangla, Assamese, Marathi, Gujarati, Kannada, Telugu children, you will have Gunam, you will have say Alpam, Prayoga, Samarthya, Karam, Tax, Rahasyam, Thairyam, Dhairyam, Dha will become Thairyam, Deham, Parichayam, Kala, isn't it? See, so many words like Kantham, Vicharam, Aga, Sukham. So I can give you, I have a list actually. So what happens, you'll find that for second language Malayalam, you will not need, a child will not need more than about 1000 to 1200 words to do everything. Basic. Not writing literature, creative literature will take the board. And if you look at 1000 words in Malayalam, at least 700 to 800 will be similar to Indo-Aryan languages. Like I gave you the list. So Sanskrit, Malayalam, Tamil, Kannada, Telugu, Bangla, Gujarati, Marathi, they have so much in common. The words, the vocabulary are so much cognate, many aspects, except for say pronouns and some verbs, some adjectives, some animal names and tree names, etc. Most abstract nouns also, and even higher adjectives, adverbs will be similar from the same source. So instead of every lesson giving new list of words, new something artificial in a story, You just work on, and the ready-made lists are available for Malayalam, Hindi, Gujarati, Marathi, etc. Ready-made lists are available. You select the cognate words first, and instead of giving a new word, say which is not there neither in the mother tongue nor in Malayalam, you select those words because you have to make the child first proficient. If she masters the basics of the grammar and basic vocabulary, which doesn't exist more than 800 words in any language, including English, you do not need more than 800 words in entire life. If you are not a teacher or not working in a government office, an ordinary English speaker needs only about 800 words to live up to 70 years of age and do everything, all the works of life. Only 800 words. You don't need 5 lakh words. Same is true for Malayalam also as second language. You need a maximum 1000 to 1200 words to do everything. Only few rules that can be written on one page, one A4 size of paper in Malayalam, which will be useful for all mother tongue speakers of Hindi, Gujarati, Marathi, Telugu, Tamil, etc., who are learning Malayalam. That's enough. So when they have mastered these things, using the words, the cognates, Malayalam and Hindi, Malayalam and Marathi, Malayalam and Tamil, Malayalam and Kannada, Malayalam and Gujarati, what will happen? It will be familiar to them. These words will become comprehensible input to their brain. They'll enjoy it. No, they'll feel confident. They'll not be afraid that, oh, new words are coming, it's so difficult, etc. Then the learning will be enjoyable, and these words will go to the long-term memory. That means the facts, that words, verb, noun, no, adverb, they are facts, and they are stored in the brain, and they become procedural, they become habit, because connected to their mother tongue. So it's so easy to use the same words, listen to the same word in films, listen to the same words, so same 700-800 words all the time. So it will become so automatic and habitual that they don't have to worry. Whenever they need it, these words will come in their second language, Malayalam. Okay, and then I have given how the teaching learning of vocabulary items takes place. So by watching video, by reading something, many words will be learned in context from that also. You don't have to teach each and every word in the classroom, and only words that have come in the textbook. You have to go beyond that. You make a list that which words are required, these 800 words. Where do they occur? In which cartoon? In which recipe book? In which clip, say, of Shankar's, or some video clip, some short stories, some folk tale. So many types of videos, some film clips, film scene, which can be common. Some songs, which the situation of which can be common in both mother tongue and second language Malayalam as well. Some scenes can be common at conceptual level for the children from other than Malayalam background. So some scenes can be common. So many words will come there, because no textbook, no story can contain all the words that are required for a child to do her works in real life situations. Writing an application, writing a small paragraph, everything will not be there. Shop, culture, talking to parents, etc. All these words will not be there in those stories and poems that you have kept in Malayalam textbook. They will be so artificial. They will be removed from the real life situation, the textbook stories and poems. So that's why you bring these things, and by reading something just for pleasure, by watching films and film clips, cartoons, etc., many words, they occur again and again, and they will go to their long-term memory. They'll get habituated to listening to these words, and words also contain grammar. So like plural marker, case will be there, present tense, past tense of the verb. So through that exposure, that means comprehensible input again and again, more exposure, more recycling. Do it again and again in same word, same construction, in different mediums, writing sometimes, reading something, listening to something, some film, or having conversation, skit, role play in classroom. This is how new words and grammar through words, because words contain the grammar rules. Then memory is also important. See, this is so what happens when a Hindi-speaking child is learning Malayalam, or a Malayalam-speaking child is learning English as a second language. everywhere in the world, when someone learns second language, this happens. That from L1 to L2, in between, there is an interlanguage. That some rules from mother tongue will keep coming, some pronunciation will come from mother tongue, and some pronunciation will come from second language. Some rules of second language, some rules of mother tongue will keep interfering. So that is called interlanguage. And by giving so much of exposure to various mediums, reading, writing, listening, speaking, video, film, no, skate, role play, etc., what will happen? They will get rid of that mixture language, which is interlanguage, which is partly Malayalam and partly English, or partly Hindi and partly Malayalam. By more exposure, more comprehensible input, what will happen? They will get rid of this interlanguage. So interlanguage is normal, natural. Even most of you and almost all of us, as mother tongue acquirer, what we do, we make such mistakes. We don't say do as child, as kid, we say do, isn't it? We don't pronounce Sanskriti. When a child, Hindi-speaking child, is 3-year-old, she cannot pronounce like me, Sanskriti. No, or Samarthya. No, she can't pronounce it. She'll say something, Samarth, Samarth, like that. So we all make such mistakes. Even English speakers in England, America, children do that. Mom, I ate it. They don't say I ate it. Most of them. So these things are normal, interlanguage. It's a development process. Whatever new information is coming, that is going to become a habit, going to become part of the brain, long-term memory. So interlanguage is important, and the teachers have to work in such a way, more comprehensible input, more exposure, give children time to do more practice. That way, the new habits, the new rules, new words will become part of their long-term memory. And when something is part of the long-term memory, and whenever they need that information, it will be retrieved, it can be recalled. But if some new information, everyday new information, everyday new story, one day on Ambedkar, the next day on Kalpana Chawla, next week or third week, water harvesting, no connection with real life, what will happen? They will memorize those things, antonym, synonym, fill in the gaps, intransitive verb, transitive verb, and that week is over, or one exam is over, one quiz is over, that information is gone. No, that is not the goal of teaching second language or learning second language. So what is the goal? That interlanguage will be there. So input, mother tongue is there, it will keep interfering. Then new information of second language, it is retained in short-term memory for some time. They are learning consciously. And then by more practice, more comprehensive input, more exposure, more input again and again, everyday practice, what will happen? This intake in second language will become uptake. That means they will unconsciously, habitually acquire, as they acquired the new words, the new grammar rules of mother tongue, by time, over time, by more exposure, more comprehensive input, this intake, information in Malayalam will become part of their long-term memory. One day you learn something, that is short-term memory. You remember it for 3 days, 4 days, up to quiz time, and then that is short-term memory. But if you do more practice, you could teach them in such a way, they interact with the words, they interact with the rules in context, not individual items. Today antonym, tomorrow synonym, today present tense marker, tomorrow past tense marker. No, language doesn't happen that way. Everything comes at the same time, the same one paragraph. You can have entire grammar of Malayalam, entire grammar of English. You cannot wait the past tense to happen later and future tense much later, and presumptive aspect much later, passive voice much later, etc. No, you can't do that. Everything comes together in context. So if your teaching is done in this way, then input becomes intake. That means it goes to short-term memory, and with practice, etc., it becomes uptake. That means it goes to long-term memory. That means whenever they need it, they can retrieve it. So they can start producing language. They can write on a new topic. They can speak on a new topic. They can understand a new topic, a new film clip, a new song, in a new language that they have acquired. So language acquisition, acquiring Malayalam in the same way as the Malayalam family child acquires Malayalam, that should be our goal. Then we say that language, second language teaching has become actually perfect. Yeah, so this is all, and this is a method. Teachers also worry about which method to use. So actually, the summary is, since we don't have much time, the summary is that you make a combination: communicative language teaching and task-based language teaching. Task, give them task, context, that use model, use negative sentence, but where? So take say an advertisement where it says, or like corona vaccine or corona, don't do this, don't do that, do this, do that. So use of do, don't will come there, isn't it? That is a task. Or watch a film clip, and write down 3 adjectives or 4 verbs or pronouns what occurred in the beginning. Similarly, so these are task-based activities. So you have a combination of task-based activities and communicative language teaching, which I have given already there for your benefit, the summary of it. So that can, yeah. So that will make you, testing I have already talked about it. So
it's a pleasure to be part of this program, especially when Professor Mishra is the expert speaker. And I must begin by saying that it's always a joy to listen to Professor Mishra on whatsoever topic. You have very rightly informed us in the beginning that Professor Mishra represents a vast array of specializations within and outside linguistics, and his experience with different organizations has provided him a lot of experience in various areas of language pedagogy and linguistics. And he is one very right person who can represent both language pedagogy, or say pedagogy in general, and applied linguistics and language teaching. So that was what was visible when he was delivering his lecture also. He has made best use of his expertise in different domains of linguistics and brought before us a very fine-grained analysis of the national curriculum framework, national education policy, linguistics, by touching upon very important, very passionate topics, which in his own signature style were very elaborate, at the same time very compact also. Sir, you have always been very systematic and organized in your lectures. Today was I mean, a similar day for us. You have picked up examples and illustrations from various languages, ranging from Hindi to Malayalam, and your focus on proficiency was very remarkable, because very often we have noticed that the teachers have given emphasis on grammar and rules, which has a toll on the learners. This is what several other resource persons have also emphasized in their lectures, that the learners should not find it very difficult to attend classes, and it should not turn out to be a rote memorization when they are learning. And your emphasis on proficiency, your emphasis on mother tongues, your emphasis on keeping the classroom situation inviting and welcoming was very, very nice. In fact, it was not just nice, it was persuasive in nature. And I think all our esteemed participants, the teachers, would take this clue and utilize it in their classroom when they go back to teach. So it's a moment that I should join Dr. Pankaj Dwivedi and other organizers in thanking you for taking out time and making this day wonderful, which also happens to be a very major, differently known, variously known, diversely known festival in this country. So happy Makar Sankranti, in whatsoever name it is known in your place. I am very happy to state that all teachers have been very patient, being part of this program on a festival day, and you being the resource person for the day, leaving out the festivities in the interest of the country, in informing our citizens and building an informed citizenship. Thank you so much.